for everyone, rising in business or just interested in it.
Just look for the brand new podcast wherever you listen.
It's a brand new conversation you won't want to miss.
Staying informed can make the difference. Check in 3, 4, 5 times today. Sacramento's news, traffic, and weather station.
What is coming next?
KFBK News Radio, 93.1 FM, 1530 AM.
Thanks for staying on board. John McGinnis with you, KFBK News Radio, live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app and your smart speaker. So I'm going to get your calls in just a moment, but I do want to just kind of share this, a little bit of just throw this out into the hopper of discussions. I have no intentions of talking about this, but looking at this Davis Library situation, where Sophia Lory, frankly, a person with whom I have no history or knowledge, but a former college soccer player at Vanguard University, was invited to a local library in Davis on Sunday, yesterday, as part of the Forum on Fair and Safe Sport for Girls to share her story about being a collegiate athlete. While introducing what she and others would be addressing during the meeting, and before she even began telling her own story, Lory was accused of misgendering people by someone in the crowd. This led others, many wearing masks and others holding trans and gay pride flags, to interject about how, quote, transgender women are women. A librarian in the back of the room then jumped into the fray, reminding everyone that California state law recognizes transgender women as women. Lory eventually began telling her story before quickly being cut off yet again, after stating the very simple fact that, quote, current 10-year-old girls cannot live out the same dream as long as men are allowed to compete in women's sports, end quote. I think that's a pretty accurate statement to make. I would have a very difficult time arguing against that. If you are a 10-year-old girl and you're an athlete and you train and you work hard at it, and your plan is to compete in women's sports, be it swimming or track and field or whatever the case may be, volleyball, and all of a sudden you find yourself competing against somebody who is 6'4", 220 pounds, a fully developed male body that identifies as a woman, you're not going to reach the stars. You're not going to meet your aspirations. So ultimately, this comment on the part of Ms. Lory led the librarian to issue a stern warning. Ms. Lory adjusted her wording and began stating biological girls and biological men, but that wasn't good enough for the anti-biology extreme left group in the room. This is an article, by the way, from Outkick. Watching the full video is worth every second of your time, they opine. And I have to say, so the question about the appropriateness or the ability to silence somebody in a public library who was there sharing an opinion, what about that? What about controlling speech, a law that controls speech? California recognizes transgender women as women. And quite honestly, I have tremendous empathy for people who are dealing with dysphoria. I know we have a very, very difficult situation to try to resolve, but there are scientific facts associated with it. And I think it's scientifically based, but practical facts as well, not unlike the point that Ms. Lory made when she described 10-year-old girls advancing into a world where they would be competing against biological males. So regardless of what side of this equation you may take, and maybe you agree with Ms. Lory that these young girls are going to advantage and their athletic dreams, the competition dreams are going to be compromised by the current state of affairs in which they're going to be competing against fully developed, large, muscular males who identify as women. Maybe you agree with that. I tend to agree with that. In fact, more than tend to agree. I think it's a factual statement, frankly. Maybe you're on the other side. Maybe you think they should be allowed to compete. I would support your right to believe that. But in a public library, which is a government-controlled facility, where the state has passed a law acknowledging calling transgender women women, does that seem in your mind as though it comports with the protections guaranteed by the First Amendment to the Constitution? There's nothing in this that indicates that Ms. Lori was being rude or impolite or improper. She was stating her observations that don't match that of the majority in the California legislature that have created this position. But it doesn't make her factually or fundamentally wrong. And even if she was wrong, in other words, I happen to think she's right. So let's take the opposing side of it for a moment. I think the opposing argument is wrong. But I would support their right to say it as well, and I think the First Amendment to the Constitution supports that as well. You cannot silence somebody from sharing their opinions in a public facility because the state has endeavored to control speech. I think this absolutely loses on a First Amendment challenge. I cannot see any way it survives. I just asked a question during the break about what about state law? Well, there's something known as the supremacy clause. Supremacy clause in the Constitution. I have to believe that I see the First Amendment as sacrosanct. It's the very first one in the Bill of Rights. It's that important that people be allowed to express themselves, and similarly, those sincerely held beliefs, or any beliefs for that matter, cannot be silenced. That is also a form of obviously denying somebody their First Amendment rights. I find this to be a very, very, very unsettling course of developments here, and I think it's one worth watching. My sense is this is going to get some rather significant attention. I can foresee the potential for a very legitimate First Amendment challenge here. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding in terms of the First Amendment, what people are allowed to say, what they're not allowed to say, who it is that is constrained by the First Amendment. It's the government that's constrained. So if the library, in support of what they perceive to be state law by way of expressions that people are not allowed to utter, silences somebody in a public library, I see it as a clear violation of this woman's First Amendment rights, and I think it's also unhealthy in terms of trying to find solutions to problems. In this vein, I found it very interesting to see a clip of Vivek Ramaswamy, who was approached by a woman who identified herself as, right out of the gate, as pansexual, and asked him how he felt about same-sex marriage and a couple of other questions. And he was very, very, very pleasant with her and explained his point of view and used the term the tyranny of the minority. And they wound up shaking hands and partying in a friendly way. That's the beauty, that's the benefit of people being able to freely exchange ideas. The desire to silence somebody because they see the world a bit differently than you do, I find to be extraordinarily problematic in terms of limiting any hope for productive dialogue. In addition to that, I see this as a major, major challenge in terms of the state, the government, the local library, which is part of the government, all-inclusive, severely limiting the expressions of a human being in that facility. By the way, somebody who's brought there for, it's not as though they were speaking out and interrupting the function of the library, which is supposed to be a quiet place. This is a meeting that was held there as a public meeting place. I see it as an absolute violation of her First Amendment rights. So we got a couple of topics in the hopper. Feel free to opine on any of them. 800-834-1530, 800-834-1530. Your call's coming up.
He led one of our nation's largest law enforcement agencies. Now he leads you through conversation every afternoon, 3 to 4. John McGinnis on KFBK.
You might occasionally miss breakfast, but don't miss Christina Mendoza, Sam Shane, and the KFBK Morning News.
Or you'll miss a lot. KFBK, Sacramento's News Radio, 93.1 FM, 1530 AM.
Mike Lister believes a good financial advisor helps you map out a plan for each step of your retirement without taking a commission. Hi, it's John McGinnis. Mike is the founder of Talon Wealth and on a mission to help those near and in retirement protect and grow their nest egg. And he's ready to prove it with Talon's Satisfaction Guarantee. It's actually quite simple. For any new client that hires Talon to actively manage their portfolio, if you're not satisfied after a year for any reason, Talon will refund 100% of your advisor fees. Yep, that's right. For any new client that hires Talon to actively manage their portfolio, if you're not satisfied after 1 year for any reason at all, Talon will refund 100% of your advisor fees. Call 916-545-6000 to find out more. That's 916-545-6000 or visit guardingyournestegg.com.
Advisory services through Talon Private Wealth, an SEC registered investment advisor. John McGinnis was compensated for this message and is not a client of Talon Private Wealth, LLC, California license 0N00828.
I'm David Goldberg, a bilingual elementary school teacher and president of the California Teachers Association. As we start a new school year, there's something new happening in California's public schools. They're called community schools, where families, students, educators, and communities are making decisions as one.
As a parent, I feel like we're really valued as partners in the education system.
Community schools are bridging the systems of academics with the community.
The curriculum is designed around the students and their academic needs.
I know community schools are working. We see it in parent involvement. We see it in student academics.
We saw a double-digit gains in math, English, and reading scores.
It's a more innovative, holistic approach to educating students.
I really feel like this is the first time that we're really seeing a system change in our school.
It's innovative, fresh,
And they're already working. We invite you to learn more about community schools as we come together to reimagine public education here in California. And that's why CTA brought you this message.
Attention business owners, this is John Souza, CEO of ERTC.com. The Employee Retention Tax Credit Program provides up to $26,000 per W-2 employee. If you're confused about the program, stop right now before it's too late. Don't fall for false promises and risk your business. All ERTC companies are not the same. The bottom line, there's no such thing as guaranteed eligibility, and being innovative with tax filings can lead to an audit. At ERTC.com, we won't mislead you to attest to your own eligibility. At ERTC.com, everything is done in-house by expert CPAs, and there's no cost to get started. With the ERTC.com Fast Track Refund Program, you may qualify to get your refund in as soon as 48 hours. Get started today at ERTC.com.
Get your free refund information now. 800-200-9080. 800-200-9080. That's 800-200-9080. Good afternoon from the KFBK Traffic Center. It is 3:47 on Dana Hess, brought to you by Armanino Foods Company. And on your roadways, we have an accident in front of Target. It's going to be Madison Avenue, College Oak Drive, surface-free collision there with injuries. Got a tow truck there as well, so a lot of activity. Also, eastbound 50 on Missouri Flat Road, we had some tire tread in the roadway to watch out for. Coming in through Davis, see, it's already getting fairly heavy from just before Richards Boulevard to get across the causeway by quite a bit, actually, so expect delays. Eastbound Cap also building up in Midtown. Armanino Restaurant quality frozen-filled pasta and frozen sauce are now available at your local grocer. It's how Italian should be, made from the best with love and zest. For creative recipes with their frozen pasta, sauce, and meatballs, visit ArmaninoFoods.com. Traffic on the 10s every 10 minutes, mornings and afternoons. Dana Hess, KFBK News Radio, 93.1 FM, 1530 AM. Updated news that matters to you at the top and bottom of every hour on KFBK, Sacramento's News Radio.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying on board. John McGinnis with you, KFBK News Radio, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app and your smart speaker. A couple of topics in a hopper, talking about the theatrics, the machinations at the Justice Department regarding the Hunter Biden prosecution. A whole lot that has been disclosed now by Politico. It has a ring of credibility to it, I believe. That's my opinion. I'd be happy to take a deeper dive, a harder look at it. But it really truly looks to me as though there was enormous pressure brought to bear to not prosecute the first son. And then we also have this more contemporary and certainly I think very interesting development taking place in Davis, where it looks as though the words chosen by a person to express their belief in something, which I think is a defensible belief, are being curtailed by the state of California and then secondarily by the Davis Library. So I'm going to share with you very quick. I'm going to get your calls, I promise. This is from Sophia Laurie herself, and again, I don't believe I'd ever heard of this woman. But she said, today I was invited to share my personal story of being a college athlete. I was shocked at what happened. I stated, quote, current 10-year-old girls cannot live out the same dream I had as long as men are allowed to compete in women's sports. So now, no matter how hard girls work, and then I was cut off and told by the librarian I would be removed. So then I continued talking, saying biological girls and biological men to finish sharing my story. The librarian then told me to leave, and if I won't leave, he will shut the entire meeting down. The librarian again then told me to leave, so I directly said, why am I being asked to leave? And he told me, quote, because you are misgendering. You were talking about men in women's sports, end quote. The group putting on the event had the conference room reserved at the public library to host the event at the Mary L. Stevens Davis Branch Library. So, that's, is that an infringement on the First Amendment protected rights of this woman, Sophia Laurie? And if you have a question about it, then why don't you just kind of assume the other side of the argument? I don't want to see those people silenced either. And I think if you can actually bring people together, there may be some hope to reach a better place as a result of legitimate dialogue. Silencing seems so fundamentally wrong in terms of productive effort, as well as what looks to me to be an absolute violation of this woman's First Amendment right. Your thoughts, 800-834-1530. Miss M is waiting patiently in Davis. Miss M, good afternoon. Welcome to the conversation. Thanks for holding on.
Hi, Mr. McGinnis. I live in Davis, and I just wanted to say, unfortunately, that is the case there. I've been there about 9 years, and I'm actually looking to move because it's so much that way across the board, unfortunately. And they accept everybody for who they are, but yet you have to think like them. It's a subcontext every time that's being put out there. And it's really difficult because you can't engage in productive conversations and where you can learn about different things if everybody has to agree with the same thing all the time.
Precisely. And I think there are legitimate elements of defense of this woman, Sophia Laurie. Her position, I think, is defensible. And in fact, the medical experts will tell you that notwithstanding even surgical efforts for transitioning, it does not, for a man going to transgender woman, does not involve a biological woman, doesn't change the chromosome makeup, doesn't call for menstruation, doesn't create fallopian tubes and so forth. It is not truly a biological woman. So there is an element of defense to it. But then I'd go so far, Miss M, I'm curious about your thoughts on this. I think if somebody wants to argue against that, I have no desire to silence them, and I say that the Davis Branch Library doesn't have the authority to silence them. What do you think of that?
I agree with you 100%. I've just seen this happen in Davis numerous times. If you don't talk about what they want you to talk about, and I know that's a broad stroke, but it is a commonality I've encountered through the years of being there. That unless you talk what they want to hear and say, then you're shut down.
Yeah,
it's very unfortunate. It doesn't serve anybody well to do that.
Yeah, there's so many reasons to think, I believe, have serious concern about this. It's antithetical to productive dialogue. In fact, it stops. There is no dialogue there. It's only one side.
There is.
But even that, I believe, regrettably, is secondary to the infringement on a basic fundamental constitutional right. If this is a private facility and the people there are only allowed to speak one way, okay, that's their call. But this is a public place. And so I think the First Amendment absolutely protects this woman's speech. And I hope, I actually kind of like to see some level of enforcement here, I suppose, even though there's a certain negative to that. But I think it would provide the opportunity for clarification ultimately through appeals. So I appreciate the call very much, Ms. M. And stay in touch. We'll see where this goes. Appreciate your call. Let's check in with David, very patiently waiting in San Francisco. David, good afternoon. Welcome to the conversation. Thanks for holding on.
Oh, no trouble, John. I was regarding the first conversation, beginning of the hour, and I somewhat wanted to tag team in with that other caller who was talking about it's time to, double-check the judges and double-check the administrators of government to make sure that they're not cheating us. And I was reminded of, there was an old Spencer Tracy movie that came out after World War II called Justice at Nuremberg. And in it, they tried to prosecute the criminals, the war criminals of World War II, and they included the Supreme Court justices, they included the bankers, they included the top politicians, including the district attorneys and the attorney general. And at the end of the movie, of course, big money gets in the way and tries to subvert the justice. And so, going back to your discussion of Ukraine, that's exactly what happened in, 2014, 2015, as Donald Trump was running for office in the beginning. You remember Michael Flynn, his national security advisor, he was on the take from Russia, and he was on the take from Turkey. And
allegedly, and
no, he was on the take.
Okay, you have dispositive proof of that? I haven't seen that.
That's why he resigned.
Where is the proof of it, though? I'm not defending Mr. Flynn, but I never saw proof of that, and he was never. That proof was never brought to bear. So. Unfortunately, we're going to get cut off here because we're out of time. But I'm very, very reticent to use such strong allegations without evidence. Appreciate the call. Okay, that's it for me. Coming up next with the afternoon news. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good one.
Building a better Sacramento. KFBK News Radio 93.1 FM, 1530 AM, and iHeart Radio station.
Listen on the free iHeart Radio app for all your music, news, sports, comedy, and podcasts. Free never sounded so good.
Toyota's national sales event is on through Labor Day weekend. It's time to hit the road and enjoy the last days of summer. Get out there in a Toyota truck like the powerful Tundra or legendary Tacoma. Right now, get low 3.99% APR financing on the 2023 Tacoma for when your Labor Day adventures lead you off the beaten path. Or check out the iconic 4Runner or dynamic Sequoia Hybrid. Toyota, let's go places. Offer available through TFS suppliers with premium rated credit and 9523. What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know? Too hard.
Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun. Fun isn't hard. Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging. You don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life. You can choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Plus, Babbel's lessons are designed to get you speaking right away. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks. Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and hosted by real native speakers, you'll get the accent just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
And now, try Babbel free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com. Is your car still under warranty? No, not anymore. My mechanic just suggested an extended service plan from Ox Car Care. Ox Car Care? Yeah, Ox will cover repair bills if anything happens to the car. New brakes, transmission, AC, or engine problems. Plus, Ox Car Care offers free oil changes, tire rotation, and roadside assistance. Wait, you pay nothing on repairs? Ox gets it fixed, free oil changes, free tire rotation, and free roadside assistance? Yeah, you don't pay. Ox pays. Ox even has a 30-day money-back guarantee and is A+ rated on the BBB. They handle their claims from start to finish, unlike those other warranty companies.
The last thing I need is an unexpected car repair bill. I'm calling Ox Car Care now.
Call Ox Car Care for your free quote. 800-231-9881. Ask about senior and military discounts. Don't get stuck with a major car repair bill. Call Ox Car Care. 800-231-9881. 800-231-9881. Or go to oxcarcare.com. Our iHeart Radio Music Festival is coming back to T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas this September.
Superstar artists from every genre.
Streaming live only on Hulu.
Buy tickets now at AXS.com.
KFBK, Sacramento, KFM, all kinds of news, traffic, and weather.
KFBK, Sacramento's News Radio, 93.1 FM, 1530 AM.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Kitty O'Neill with the KFBK Afternoon News. Stories now trending. Southern California cleaning up in the aftermath of Tropical Storm Hillary. Sacramento Mayor Darrell Steinberg taking a different approach to this year's State of the City address. And California state employees now have a temporary working agreement. And, of course, President Biden visiting Maui today. We'll have a lot of those stories coming your way right now. Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes.